Um, Different camera angle. I can't have it in my hands because I need to be able to move my hands. Because this subject's a little hard, and I'm still working my way through it. But I think it's important that it gets out there because there's a basic misunderstanding about what makes obese people obese and the way for them to reverse being obese. Obesity is not about discipline. It is not about willpower, and I'm going to say that again because it is really important. It is not about discipline, and it is not about willpower. Accountability for exercise, yeah, sure, discipline, okay, but not if you've got an eating disorder, right? And I want to be careful about words disorder because some people use the idea of disorder as a free pass to say, this is how I am, there's nothing I can do about it. That's not what this is about. This is not about getting a pass. This is about understanding the right path out of the shit. Because if you're stuck in the hole and you're trying the wrong thing over and over and over and over and over and over, and over, not only are you going to be stuck in the hole, you're going to think you're a piece of shit that you got in the hole to begin with and you don't know the way out, right? And so you need to understand the right way out of the hole. You know, there's a few videos, you know, where I work out, climb stairs, all that shit. It's fun to do it, right? I look, I'll admit it. It's fun when people are videoing me climbing stairs or whatever the other shit is. I do enjoy it. And it looks like that's where the work is. It is not, man. The work is right here. Right where I'm sitting on the side of this bed, sorting the shit out. And I'm getting to make connections that I didn't know were there, right? And so anyway, that's what this is about. This is about understanding what the path is. Because either we are an obese person or we know an obese person, and with our best meaningful intentions, we're trying to help them and not helping them. Okay? So, what an eating disorder is about is a coping mechanism. So we all have shit that happens to us, and we all cope with that shit in all different ways. Okay? And maybe you're healthy, right? Maybe you're like, this thing happened, let's make a list, here's what I could have done, right? I don't think that's what most of us do, though. And some of us beat ourselves up. Some of us yell at the dog, fucking binge watch reality shows, whatever your flavor is, right? So when you have an eating disorder, your coping mechanism is eating. So, and this brings me back to, it's not about discipline. And that is real important, man, because if you're fighting it, you got to get your head around that, okay? Because otherwise you'll trip yourself up over and over and over and over. So let's talk about what I think the cycle looks like. Look, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist. I've just been chewing through freaking personal development books, chewing through podcasts, trying to get shit right in my own mind. And flavors all the way from freaking Goggins, slam your head against the wall, go, go, go. But the most important out of all the shit I've gone through so far, Brene Brown. And I've been saying it and thinking it. I think that her audiobook, which is actually a recording of a lecture, is the single most profound personal development book that I've read, period. The Power of Vulnerability. by Brene Brown. The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown. I'm on my third time through it. So, so you got an eating disorder. Your coping mechanism is food. Some stressful thing happens. And maybe it's a slow build and you finally snap, or maybe it's right? And then before you know it, you're making a choice, right? And look, man, for me, drive-throughs. Yeah. And then what happens? You go to this, somebody used the word familiar, or you go to this familiar place to try to numb your emotions. Look, there's also some dopamine rushes and shit. There's also the hunger cycle, right? Insulin, ghrelin. But just the mental side, you are you're returning to that place for comfort and your coping mechanism. So then you engage in the wrong behavior, so you eat. Now, what do you think happens next? Then you blame yourself. Why wasn't I disciplined? Why didn't I have the discipline? Why didn't I have the willpower? Right? Then, man, then you start messing with your own self-worth. How profound is that? That just me thinking about it, right? And it wasn't my own shit, because I'm feeling real good today, real solid. But the pain for what another person goes through when they start chipping away at their own self-worth, right? So now you got guilt and you got shame, right? Which are stressors. Now, how do you think a person who fucking deals with stressors, their coping mechanism is food, and now they just had food, right? The wrong food. What do you think that they're going to do? And now we can see how this loop just feeds itself, right? And that's just your own internal dialogue, right? What about the other people that see it? Look, that's part of why I like drive-thrus. Drive-thrus, you order whatever you want. Nobody knows how many people are eating that shit. All right? So that means that the work that has to be done is finding a new path, creating a new coping mechanism, also understanding what got you from point A to point B. How did you start having this coping mechanism? How did you create that? What in your head along the way, because like none of us know shit. We wake up or we're born with nothing, and we're making up a user manual as we go along, and half of it's bullshit, right? So what's the thing that happened to you that set you on that trajectory, right? So this is a story. If you're obese, right? Look, you've got your own trauma, whatever the thing is that sets you on that trajectory. If you're not, then this is about understanding and helping to have compassion for the people that are understanding how they got there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story just for a minute. And look, I haven't wanted to tell this story. I don't want like pity and shit, right? But see, that's the fucked up thing about people is we actually kind of do what we want is empathy, not sympathy. Brene Brown, holy shit, read that book. What we want is empathy, not sympathy. Sympathy is painful. Empathy is it's It's nurturing, man. It's like your mom hugging you. Anyway, hold on, let me come back. My story. Again, look, you've got your, if you're obese, you've got yours. Another obese people, they got theirs. This is just an example. Okay, so when I'm 6, I lose my dad. Massive heart attack in front of me. Shit you not. Home from school that day. Had a little disagreement because, look, when you're home from school, your parents are going to make you stay in bed. You don't want to stay in bed, especially if you're not that sick, right? Walking back to my room after the disagreement, mom yells. I come back thinking I'm in trouble. What's really happening is, find out later, my dad's having a heart attack. And right there in front of me, man. There's more to it, but I gotta move on. Then, 6 months later or so, my mom starts losing her eyesight. Real painful, some kind of infection. They didn't know what it was. She went blind. Like, straight up blind. Blind. To where, look, we were on a list to get a dog. They had a lady out teaching her how to use a cane, right? Leading up to that, like, so there's a place called the Blind Center where you're meeting all these other blind people. Which helps you because you're like, oh, they can do all this other stuff. But then you're also relearning all kinds of stuff, right? I got a 2-year-old little brother, right? So it's just 3 of us. Blind mom, 6-year-old me, little brother. I learn how to pick up the house in the right way because I got counsel on this shit all the time. I think I opened a can once and left the lid off because, dude, they told me so many goddamn times to pick those lids up. But maybe it's a common problem. Anyway, I think about it to this day when I open a can, about the sharp edges of a lid. I digressed. Sorry, let me come back. So not only did I learn how to do basic household chores, but I learned how to cook. And one of the first things I learned how to cook was pasta. So when we talk about the nature of food addiction, there's all kinds of other shit to talk about, like when you eat fast release carbs, what kind of cycle that sends your hormones on, and why you feel just ravenous hungry, and then you're oversatiated, followed by again hunger, and then preservatives and hyper palatable shit. That's we'll just keep it to the disorder shit here. Dude, I liked eating. And look, man, I did weird shit by the time I was like 10 or 12, where, like, again, my mom had her eyesight back at that point, and I'm still cooking stuff that I shouldn't have been cooking, right? Because it wasn't for the family, and I would just go eat it and then, like, hide the pots and pans because there was no way for me to wash them without getting caught on to what I did, right? So 6, this is the learned coping mechanism, right? And you would talk about addictive behaviors. Look, I was on meth for 2 years. I ran my whole life off the road, right? I became homeless. I quit that shit cold turkey. Like I just followed some basic ideas about who I surrounded myself with, following through the logical conclusion of pain, blah, blah, blah. Easy. This shit I fought because, again, you know, you've got that river and it runs over that same path that gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, right? So I met a guy that was pushing 600 pounds, and I was asking him, I said, how did this happen to you, right? And he says, well, my grandma. I'm staying with my grandma. Something happened, right? And I don't remember, but at the time I wasn't looking for what's that traumatic event, right? Something happened, and his grandma is giving him candy every time he sees his grandma. So, bam, new reward system, early age. and then so if you're an obese person, figure out what your path is, how you got on that path. Once you know what it is, then you can figure out where you need to veer off, make your adjustments. Okay? If you are not obese, but you're helping an obese person, you got somebody you care about that's obese, saying shit like, look, almost anything you say. This is the sad thing of it, man. Almost anything. Because the self-hatred, self-loathing, all that shit is so profound and it's so there. It's an open goddamn wound. So there could be shit you didn't even mean to say, right? And it could poke it. But that doesn't mean you can't try, right? But you just have to understand it might not land well. And the thing that you're hoping to fix actually makes it worse. So again, here's what you do. Ask with compassion, and genuine curiosity. Right? Dude's like, oh, Twinkies are my favorite thing. Really? Twinkies were never my thing. When did you start eating Twinkies? What'd you like about Twinkies? Right? And then they'll start dropping clues, right? And maybe through that conversation you can open something up. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know, right? But like I said, this Instagram, I made it with the intention of helping other obese people, and I think that's the way. I think that is the big way, because I don't think it's fair. It's not fair for any obese person who watches my Instagram and they think it's just because I climbed stairs or went to the gym or whatever. Bullshit. Because if you don't solve that, the chances that you're going to end up back in that pattern. Look, I already went from 47. I went from 47 down to 385. I already did that once. Right? And then I ballooned back up to 550. Why is that? Is because I had a massive stressor in my life, and I turned to my coping mechanism, and then it just turned into a snowball rolling down the hill. Right? Questions, comments, anything, please. Look, some people get their feelings hurt when they're like, that's the fat guy. Look, man, I am, right? It is, right? Also, I want to say this. Just because my shit is eating disorder, trauma, that's what led to it, and then it turned into a snowball. Okay? Look, we all got our shit, man. There's the folks out there that had early issues with maybe their size of tallness, or there's people out there that were of minority race in a predominant school or whatever, and the shit that came with that. Your family was poor, and you didn't have the right clothes, and that made you feel certain. Whatever. Okay, we all got our shit, that trauma, that thing that leaked in there that began to shape our behaviors and caused us to have maybe coping mechanisms that weren't the right way, like bullies, right? Look, no bully loves themselves. They're angry and sad inside, and that's how they get to be that way. Anyhow, I digress. Thanks again.